So let's get a little bit started. Just a couple of things. If you can, I know there's going to be a lot of us in here, and as I was mentioning to someone earlier, we're in getting close to like almost 120 schools that we're going to be in. So if you can, just type in what school you're in and where you're located at. It would be helpful for us just to see, and I think helpful for everyone just to see where we're at and united in this mission, and just seeing that the impact we're making. Not just it used to just be in Texas and starting little 18 schools in Houston and it's branched out. So it's just I'm curious to see where everyone's at. Just to introduce myself as well, my name is Dean Kovacs. I'm the Director of School Engagement here at Smart Families. And that's what I want to hopefully to do today is just kind of get us excited about the mission, get us excited to what we're about to embark in. I know you guys are getting ready, getting your teachers back in and getting the students ready. So I do really appreciate just taking the time this morning to get excited with us and really just help shape and transform the culture of your school for the next, hopefully for the rest of our time there and beyond. I do want to introduce a couple of our team. If our team's on here, can you guys just quickly introduce yourselves as well?
My name is Hillary Caceres. I'm the Executive Director of Smart Families. I am very excited to be able to speak with you all today. Very briefly, Dean is going to do an amazing job, I know, at walking through a wonderful formal presentation that he's prepared and hopefully getting you excited and really kind of understanding what your year ahead is going to look like. We do a lot of work on the back end to make sure that you do need to do as little work as possible. So I will say what he's going to share with you is a lot of information, but the reality is most of our conversations are about how can we take the burden off the principals and their team. And that's why we have these implementation coordinators that you've hopefully all been introduced to so that they're your point of contact for everything. And really, in short, I'm going to take the opportunity to share that part of my most invigorating component is to seeing the impact that technology is having on children and really how it flows over onto the shoulders of many principals, teachers, and the staff at the schools. And so while, phones may not be used in the classroom anymore, everything that's happening at home, we know is filtering over into your school day. And so part of what we talk about is how do we support the families and educate the students so we can hopefully lift some of those burdens off your shoulders. I will say we spend time coming together what we feel is to be a very impactful program, but we have a lot of resources and relationships we developed over our time. And so if you have specific issues that arise in your school, please let your coordinator know. I can not guarantee, but I feel pretty confident we can support you in a specific matter that might come up. So while we have a lot of great content, we know each school faces unique challenges. So please feel free to reach out to us and let us know if there's an area that you're not seeing in our content, you're not seeing in our presentations. We can help address it. We're really excited. I'm a mother of 3 girls. I have 3 daughters in a private Catholic school here in Houston. So I'm living this as well, as we all are. And I know it's going to be a wonderful year for everybody.
Hillary, if you want to go ahead and share the surprise, I think let's start there.
So what I'm about to share with you, we know that walking into back to school, principals have an enormous amount of things on their plate. And so what we've created, this is our 2025, we're calling it a Smart Families introduction video. It's short, it's 2 minutes. We will be encouraging principals, for those who have time and the audiovisual capabilities, to share this at your back to school. This is a really nice way to introduce the program to your community. I will obviously afterwards you'll be able to see why, but back to school is probably the ideal time to kind of kick things off after school, get some excitement, get a little bit momentum on the pledge. So we've created this to help support y'all with your launch.
technology and the computers that people color on this slide, the less gray matter.
The notification on your phone, what color is that? Red. Yes.
And here are the updated parental controls and settings.
So while Dean will walk you through some of the other items we'll have to help support back to school, we have a script, we'll have some marketing materials, whether that's going to be your formal launch or you're going to really kind of pivot and focus on that first parent presentation. We really hope that you'll find time and the opportunity to share this video. It's a really beautiful way to kind of set the tone and who we are and what we're trying to do. So we hope you enjoyed it. You'll be getting a link to that probably in this week's principal email from your implementation coordinator.
Let me share my screen.
I think we may just have a question, maybe from Camille.
I wondered if we could get those words in Spanish as well on the video.
We actually have the video in Spanish. I just played the English version today, but great question. We have it all ready to go in Spanish.
Thank you so much.
Of course, glad you asked.
Yes, and so you are part of this growing movement. We are, I think we can all reflect. And then this is how I usually start my Smart Families pitch whenever I'm back at a school anyway, is just asking everyone just to close their eyes. Remembering your own childhood, the things that brought you the greatest, like to this day, just brings you a smile to your face. For me, it was, sitting on the grass, looking up at the clouds, trying to find out what kind of shapes I see. It might have been just having kickball games and matches with all the neighborhood kids until the streetlights came on. It was going to Blockbuster and finding a movie with my family and going to Pizza Hut when they still had the salad bars afterwards on a Friday night. Then we look at today. I don't see too many kids just laying in the grass looking at the clouds. I don't see, kickball matches or sport things happening in driveways too often. Blockbusters, there's only one in Oregon left. Most of them have closed down. And not to say it's all the smartphone, but it's a big component of where we've moved from. And I think a lot of it is like we've forgotten what it was to be like a kid in those memories. And I know we all have these things that we want to share and to give on to others. And that's what we want to do at Smart Families, is to give our kids, our communities, a childhood that they're going to remember, that they're going to enjoy, that they're going to share on with, everyone around us. And that's our mission, right? We're dedicated to empowering families to create that change, to engage with technology that's intentional and respectful of their innate human dignity. That's essentially it. We don't give, a 11-year-old the keys to the car. They're not ready for it, right? In the same way, we have technology at hands, as the video said, even at the age of 10, way before they're ready to actually handle this as a tool and treat it as a tool. And it's impacting their growth, their development, and their childhood. And our plan is to engage with your community, to engage with your school, engage with the parents there to help establish these 4 norms: prioritizing your family values, delaying smartphones to at least high school, delaying social media till at least 16, and a phone-free school day. And mention the video, we started off, just 18 schools in Houston, and now we're getting well above 100 and expanding very, very rapidly. And we have our 3 years or 3-year program. We cover 3 different themes. And for you guys being in year 1, we're going to dive deeper into the neuroscience. But just so you can kind of see where we're going with this, year 1 is the neuroscience. Year 2 will be about executive functioning, how screens are impacting that. And year 3 is going to be digital literacy. We're going to talk about things like AI and just how do you differentiate what's real, what's not real, and being aware of all these things. With that, we come with 5 different components, as we all should. If you have not done your planning meetings yet, please reach out to your implementation coordinator. We'd love to just meet with you and get this rolling. But we have 5 components. One, your teacher trainings. We want to help your teachers understand the mission as well. They're kind of seeing this in the classroom as we speak. And I know Sally, part of her background, if she does your in-service or maybe not, she talked about how when she was a teacher, seeing little kids fall out of chairs. And there's good reasons for that, and how technology is impacting the vestibular system and causing them to lose balance. But these are things that the teachers are seeing firsthand. We want to help them and support them and empower them as well. We have our parent presentation. So we'll have a neuroscience presentation done your year 1. It might be Dr. Jody Hunt or Dr. Crystal Collier coming to your school to give this presentation. We have our family presentations that we offer each year. Year 1, it's going to be the family code, discovering your family values, what your family says yes to, what they say no to. It's just a great way to connect, for your families to connect, because we know technology is even impacting the dinner table. Families aren't eating together anymore. We've seen statistics out there that the average family has about 4 to 5 hours of face-to-face interaction per week. And to me, that's shocking and horrifying. And a great way that we can counteract that is just sitting down and having a family meal. So we'll buy everyone dinner and invite them to go through this family code workshop. And then with that, there's 2 different student presentations. For year 1, it's going to be Follow Me and the App Trap. So just be on the lookout for those. As we mentioned, we want to engage the teachers, right? And it's not so much with these teacher trainings isn't asking them to do much. We want to be the resource. We know that they're busy developing the curriculums, going through the process of lesson planning, grading homework, right? We just want to be that resource for them. They're meeting with parents or talking with parents. They're seeing these issues. They can easily give them a newsletter. We also offer different resources and guides that go with our newsletter content. So we have like our Be Smarts, which are more sciencey ones. If you're a faith-based school, we have the Be Not Afraids that go with that too. And we have individual little lesson plans for each little newsletter goes out that teachers can utilize these in the classroom. But that's essentially it. We don't want to overburden everyone. You're putting out fires as principals all day, dealing with all sorts of things. Our job is to make your lives easier, and that's what we want to do as we kind of seek to transform your school community. And our biggest part is engaging the families, right? And so there's many ways that we go about doing this. School events, we have the video that we would like to play at the back to school night, just as a way to engage the families as much as possible. We have the parent presentations, not limited to just even Dr. Collier's or Dr. Hunt's neuroscience presentation. We have, other presentations. We have other speakers that we can bring in to kind of help engage and educate the families. We have the student presentations, because sometimes, honestly, the students get it as they're living this out. I used to be a former youth minister, and before coming to Smart Families, I was low-key a little nervous about sharing what I was going to do. I was like, oh man, they're just going to make fun of me or whatever it may be, right? And when I told them, like, hey, I'm joining this organization to help delay smartphones until Lee's high school, I was surprised to hear that they said, that's a really good idea. The kids get it. They understand what's happening to them, even if they don't want to vocalize it to their parents or anybody else. They understand what's happening and they don't like it. And so these student presentations are really key, just to getting in front of the students, helping them understand this is what's happening. These are the underworkings of these apps. This is how to use this as a tool. And I've heard feedback from students saying, I'm going to go home and limit my screen time, or talking with their friends how they're going to do it and giving them practical ways to actually make changes in their own personal life. And besides all that, we know that people just aren't hanging out as much as they used to, right? That's why we have socials that we can sponsor on our half, right? We do things to help build that community, whether that's for the kids or even for families, right? I've had we'll talk a little bit about lead families and their role in doing this in our organization. We've had families organize things about, going to Topgolf and making it phone free, or having a night where for high schoolers, right? They put the phones away and they have bring your own board game, and they get together and just have that community, that interaction that they're longing for and need. So these are just some of the ways that we're engaging families and helping build them up and embed our mission. A big component of the Smart Family mission is the pledge. And I'm probably the biggest cheerleader for the pledge, because I know how much the tech industry is pouring in to make this infiltrate every aspect that they can in our lives, right? And it's a strong current. And if you're going to have to if you want to make a truly big impact, it takes a little bit of a strong current to go back the other way, a strong, bold stance. And this is a way to empower families to do that. And I'll say families take this very, very seriously. And it's amazing to see they actually do take this, and we can incentivize this. We do different things, but they truly do live this out, and they take the time to actually make this part of that decision. And that pledge is just that, to delay giving the smartphone till at least high school. And
Dean, I want to say one thing about the pledge quickly.
Go ahead.
Okay. I know there was a number of high school principals who joined on this call this morning. And so want to make it clear the pledge is up and through till after 8th grade, obviously, until high school. And so while the majority of our schools are K through 8, we know we have a number of amazing new high schools, and we worked with a few last year. That's a different ask, right? We are not asking these parents to even consider the pledge. And so we have on, when Dean will get into it, but just making sure you realize we have our high school habits. And that's your number one pitch. And that's kind of this core that Dean is talking about, the pledge for the K through 8. For the high schools, it's the high school habits. And that might be something I think for principals who want to even look at, so you understand how our language matures. As you have 8th graders graduating, this is something that they need to be thinking about, because many of them might be getting a smartphone, or even you have some 8th graders who already have smartphones, right? So we're not asking them to take the pledge. A really great place is to look at those high school habits. They sit on our website under the information tab. And those are the 3 key things that we think we can actually try and accomplish with like a senior in high school. We know it's a very difficult conversation, so we were very clear in our asks. And I will say one other piece on the side. We have a QR code for our pledge. We've seen really great success when our implementation coordinators or our family leads, or you have an individual who's very strong-minded on your team. We have an old-fashioned printout sign-up sheet for the pledge. Some people get weary when they go online and they have to fill something out. We do really well with just those sheets. If that's something you think your community, kind of aligns well with, we're happy to share those. And then the other thing, be very clear that when you sign our pledge, your information remains completely confidential. We do not sell our families' names. We don't sell anything. They remain in our control, and they're very private, but we can offer them, and Dean, you'll walk through that. We can offer them to a principal or a staff member who wants to see in their school has signed the pledge. And there's some great beauty in knowing where you're going to be getting your support from. So I'll let you continue, Dean.
Yeah, no worries. Exactly all this. We do try to be respectful of people's privacy. This isn't something we share. This is for them. And we can share these numbers with the school as well. And just to kind of put you in perspective of where some of these schools have lied in this, and this list has already changed already as we go in. And I'll say, like, these aren't really high numbers to beat, but I'll say this too. Don't be weary if this isn't, you're not getting 30% or 20% of your family. So this is why we're a multi-year program. We know it takes time to go in there. There are some communities that we work with, and their first graders have smartphones. This is something that's going to take a little bit of time for us to work with. But this is one of these things that these aren't high numbers, but also we know I have met families that just don't sign anything. You can you can't even get some families that open up an email, right? Or get volunteer hours in. Some of them, it's always the same set of people coming and volunteering and doing the same things over and over again. Or maybe your community, as I've met different lawyers that just don't want to sign anything, but they're completely on board with our mission. So there's a lot of people that are very supportive when doing these things too. But I'll say when we're working with schools, when we hit like 25, 30% of these pledges, that culture is already shifted in a very, very dramatic way. And I've heard from many different parents, from different admin, how, one admin in particular told me about, we're rolled out at her daughter's school, and it used to be an everyday battle of, Mom, can I get a smartphone? Mom, can I get a smartphone? And then after we rolled out and a lot of her peers signed this pledge, that conversation had ceased to be a fight. That just helped that parent support in that way. And that speaks kind of volumes of how that can just sign this pledge being out there. And there's ways, again, we can boost these numbers higher. I've going around to a lot of my year 2, 3 schools and saying, let's have a pledge push week where, we can, if the class that gets the highest percentage of pledges gets a pizza party or whatever it may be, we can do things to help and make it fun and help build excitement over it as well. But this is just a cool tool for families. A lot of it, I will say, is I've talked with a lot of families on back to school nights. A lot of them just feel alone. I agree with you, everything that you're saying. I feel like I'm the only parent at this school that feels this way. And this is a great way we just point back and say, you're not alone. And even if the numbers aren't behind, yeah, go ahead.
We had a great situation 2 years ago. A parent reached out to a counselor, just so you know, you can ask us for this information to think about. We had a parent who reached out to a counselor saying, my daughter's the only one in her school without a phone. She's feeling upset. I don't know if there was some bullying involved. I don't remember the full details of it. The counselor remembered, oh my gosh, wait, hold on. We're a Smart Families school now. Let me reach out to Smart Families and figure out if that is in fact the case. Turns out the daughter was not the only one. We actually had a few people in her grade whose parents had signed the pledge, and we were able to really give her some specific families within her grade that daughter could reach out to, or the parent could reach out to and try and connect. And so if you have situations like that, that is when we do share information with schools under your privacy, though, and your ability to kind of navigate it within your realm. But it becomes very helpful for parents and children who are feeling on the flip side if they've taken a strong stance in this mission. So just keep that in the back of your mind and feel free to share it with your counselors. We're happy to work with them.
Now going into the high school habits. And so again, this is, thank you, Hillary, for the good segue into this too, right? And so as we move into high school, what it looks like is completely different, right? We want to prioritize in-person personal connections. We want to turn off the notifications because we know how bad these can be a distraction, and these things can actually hinder not only learning, but even just think about, our own family lives and how it doesn't feel good when we're talking to somebody and having a great conversation. All of a sudden someone gets a text message, or I do it myself, and I turn away from that person and look at my phone, right? This is impacting how not only our learning or education, but our friendships, our family life. And so this is a way that we want to help equip these kids just to be prepared and be aware that this is a tool that helps them and better their lives. And think before you share. Too often we really want to build up that impulse control in terms of executive functioning skills. But we know that, when you ask a high schooler or even a middle schooler, why did you do that? And they'll respond with, well, I don't know. Well, they truly really don't know. They're not really taking that time to think before they're acting or doing something. So we want to help build that up and get them to use technology in a very intentional way. We want to make sure it is using it as a tool, meaning we're using it as intended and we're using it safely. And besides that, we have other metrics of success. Like I said, it's not just about the pledge or making sure people are buying into maybe whatever we're asking them to sign up for, but it's just participation, right? There are many families that will just show up to our events that maybe they felt like this ship has passed, but there's a lot of useful information that we're bringing to the table in our presentations, our newsletters. The more that people are engaged with us, they're going to engage with our content, and other people they're going to ask for more. We have a lot of schools that do that. I've had lead parents say like, hey, I have this father-daughter dance coming up. What can we do to kind of make this more of a Smart Families thing? And I know we have certain schools that we've had them put away. We made it like a phone-free dance, and we sponsored a photo booth so they can actually take photos with the father and daughter. There's ways that we can do this to make existing events Smart Families events.
One thing on the event, on the flip side, we know we work with a number of schools. Some are quite large, some are quite small. We have had events with one family sitting in the room. And those schools are still incredibly wonderful schools that have seen great success with our program. They're getting feedback from parents who are happy with it. Should that happen, just want to let you know you're not going to be the first one and you're not going to be the last. Obviously, we want to, promote our event as much as possible at each school, and you'll be working with your implementation coordinator. So you have flyers to put in, children's backpacks or in your social media or in your e-news, and Dean will go a little bit more into that. But really just want to speak to that space where we've had hundreds of parents in attendance and we've had one. And so we will always be there no matter what in that case. And we're just going to continue plowing along.
That's right. And again, this is one of those things that you start small and you build up from there. We take what we got, and that's is what year one's about. It's laying down that foundation. That's why we bring in with the neuroscience before we build up anything else. And then we work with your school to figure out, maybe we need to do this instead. Maybe we just need, or maybe we did a really great job at, getting the information out and parents feel like they've heard it all. So let's switch it and try to do more social events and things like this. This was a school that we had for, I think, the high schoolers. They made it phone free and went to a trampoline park. Just ways to help families, ways to help school communities make connections and really focus on changing with our 4 norms. The next big component is the family leads. And this is kind of where I do feel like this is such an important part of our mission. And it starts with kind of the history of Smart Families. We were started by Brian and Jennifer Kuzma at St. Vincent de Paul, and they had their son. This was an issue at the time, was coming up. The smartphone question was coming up, but they realized really quickly. They did their research and everything else, and they didn't want to do this. They were talking with other family members. They didn't want to give their kid a smartphone. They were like, "Well, why are we doing this?" And so they got together. They organized a talk with Dr. Collier to bring about the neuroscience, and they met as a community. They brought in different grade levels. They organized a little team, and they made this an issue for their school. And they had, nearly 50% of their school sign up and be on board with the mission. And fired up by this, they went ahead and brought it to the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, and we want to do this to all their schools. And that's what started this trickle down effect. But essentially, the family leads are essentially this idea brought in by Brian and Jennifer Kuzma. It's one thing if we come in as implementation coordinators or just Smart Family reps, coming to your school doing a pitch. I mean, we're a third-party salesman in that part, right? I've been at booths before, and I get a weird look from families thinking like I'm going to take their smartphone. I don't want their smartphone. I don't want your kids to have one either, but I'm not here to take it away. And it's another thing is, if it just comes straight from admin, right? Administration, you do have pull, but it's a whole nother element when it's led by a family who's passionate about this issue, who really takes up the helm and really drives it forward. And this is why it's a really essential component of our program. It's that grassroots efforts, but it really does take this issue from just outside from us at Smart Families or from the admin, and it's placed in the hand of the community itself. And, it just really is a fascinating way, and they really just drive the program. You get a good family lead, and they're really passionate about this. So how to recruit them, who manages them? We really say, your community better than we do. And who those lead parents, they're going to be people that are going to be leaders in the community, well respected, but really just have this issue at hand. We can help with just onboarding. You can invite them. But if you need help with that too, we're at the back to school. We'll pitch our program and people come by. We can help assist in that as well if needed, right? And a management, that it kind of goes into us. We work with the lead families directly. I work with many of them through emails, text, helping them understand their roles, their responsibilities, kind of working through and coming up with brainstorming good ideas, different socials. We really want them to feel empowered and equipped to actually carry this mission and make it their own. And so one way is that we when we work with lead families, just to kind of share with you how I work through them too, is just kind of build up a team, just as kind of Brian and Jennifer did at the beginning, wanting to cover different grade levels, making sure that information is getting out, hosting team socials, make them excited about it as well. And then we kind of give them little good techniques like utilizing the group chats that are already existing at the school. If that's not existent, make a phone tree. We've seen that. I was at one school in particular. We were at a social after Dr. Collier's event, and they were a fairly large school, and they felt kind of overwhelmed. We have, 700 kids at our school. How are we possibly going to do this? There are only 20 families here. Well, one person's like, well, I'm going to text 5 people. You're going to text 5 other people. That school jumped up to almost 25% of their school overnight just through that. Just sharing this information, pushing this, and helping that. And that's what they're there for, to help distribute content, promote upcoming events. They can do pledge pushes, host socials. They really do drive a lot of what we do. And there's different ideas that we can do as well. Again, I've already kind of mentioned this, like we don't want to reinvent the wheel. A lot of times you already have great events happening on campus. Maybe it's just like a school festival, or maybe it's some kind of other event that's going on, homecoming, father-daughter dance, other things that are going on, sporting events. There's no reason why we can't help support it, but also make it a little bit smart families as well. I just had an event the other day. It was just kind of like a summer social at the school that they hosted, had a little bit of ice cream and other things going on. And I had a little booth. We painted Frisbees and everything else. And so the kids got to have some fun, and I got to talk about the program with a lot of the parents that were coming in. So there's a lot of things that are going on already on your school campus. We don't have to come up with different events. We can just find ways to kind of bring in our mission with that. Other ideas, and this are just things that we've done. We've done bowling, no screens. It's another event we've done. Sometimes when we're doing these grade level gatherings, a lot of them we try to do as goal-based as possible. It might just be doing ways to push the pledge. It might be just tackling issues that are going on at the school. Maybe, for example, we had one school in particular that grade had an issue with bullying on Fortnite. And so we were able to kind of bring in a separate event, help in gather the parents for that grade level, bring in Dr. Collier to give them good tips to help navigate that issue and really help empower those parents to understand this is what's going on with your kids. Here's a PDF how to lock down Fortnite so you don't have to worry about chatting and things like that. And these can be hosted at school, they can be hosted at home, no matter where it may be. And so those are ways that we can do this. These social events, I mean, honestly, these are all different things that we've seen done. It can be the whole community. It can just be per grade level, as we did with high schoolers. We can do lower events as well. The whole idea is just to disconnect or to reconnect to each other and really just discuss issues and pledge push. But they're really just great events just to get and build up. And now as we're approaching kind of the start of your school year, kind of for your information, just what to expect from us moving forward at Smart Families. Communications, we primarily talk to you guys with email. We send out quarterly newsletters. We have the Be Smart, the Be Not Afraid, the teacher guides. Those kind of go out to all the schools every quarter. We might have touch points where we're sending out event confirmations. Some of you might be getting event confirmations if we're going to do one of your teacher trainings next week. So you might be seeing those emails start coming through now. We might be talking about different planning meetings still, trying to schedule events. We might just be having touch points, seeing how things are going. And then we'll also send maybe an email once a week, every other week, just, hey, this is something that's happening in our sphere, in our mission. For example, the Texas law that passed banning smartphones in public schools, right? So that was definitely a post that we shared with people. We want to just kind of share these different things and that we're doing. And then also you can always reach out to us. We're a team that's united and want to help out as much as possible, right? You guys are doing so much running your school, and we want to make sure that you don't feel overwhelmed with this mission. We want to take as much burden as we can, whether that be just being that resource. What can I do? I'm experiencing this issue, or I'm dealing, or you might reach out to me and say, Dean, what's going on with this app right over here? Or do you have any resources that go with this? And we're more than happy to dive into that or bring in different presentations. You need help. You want to launch a new smartphone phone policy at your school. We have that. We can support you with EdTech. You have questions. How are we doing with pledges? We can do these. Or if you have ideas or want to share feedback, we want to listen to everything that you have to say to us. And we do respond and want to hear how things are going as well. We really do strive to help support your community as much as we can. And this is just something I know Hillary is probably going to put this here. You're going to will get this as an email coming up too. This is just our back to school checklist, just to make sure we're starting it off right? We want to make sure we have our 5 components I mentioned earlier picked. You want to introduce Smart Families to your staff, to your parents. So we have emails that we can send out for those. Just keeping them update what we're trying to do. I know nothing can, you're trying to do something, and it's hard to get teachers on board as well. That's why we try to get the in-service going as well, because you might have this goal in mind, but if not everyone's on the same page or doesn't know about the same page, we want to make sure we're congruent in our mission. We want to make sure we have our lead families recruited. We're going to have an upcoming training on September 2nd for lead families. So we'll send you details about that you can send to them. I know your back to school events are coming up. So at the very least, you can share. We have scripts that you guys can say in front of your families promoting our mission. We'll have the back to school video. And then we'll have, if we're able, and you can talk to us and see our availability, we'd love to come and speak or have a booth or whatever it may be to help be a visible presence at your event. And then throughout the year, just promoting Smart Families. That might just promoting our newsletters. It's setting up those yard signs. If you're Houston local, or maybe some of our within driving distance of our implementation coordinators, we'll probably drop those off to you at your teacher in service or back to school night. But some of you may have had them shipped. The yard signs go up in your pickup drop off area, so they just stay there. Those are the visible signs that just say we're now a Smart Family school. And it's just a good reminder for parents as we're driving by that this is the expectation. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're doing moving forward. And then, again, we can bring the Smart Families mission to other school events, as I mentioned before, and just finding ways to engage those norms and making that culture shift. Besides that, many of our schools have a parish associated with them. We love to work with your parish. We love to, if you don't have a parish associated with your school, maybe you know of parishes that many of your families go to. We'd love to work with them too and engage with them. We can work with home study groups, National Charity League, scouting groups, and other like-minded organizations. We want to branch out and share this mission with anyone possible. And we're more than willing to speak at these events, give them our resources, our newsletters to help and equip them as well. Now, there might be some challenges that you all will face, and I want to just encourage you as you face these, and just to be that support. Don't hesitate to bring this concern up to us at any point. And there might be some stuff that are listed here that aren't listed here that your school might face. And please reach out to us if you need help or support. We're always here. If you feel like, oh, I thought for a second, I thought my community wanted this, and you just feel a little disheartened when you reach out and it's like, oh, there's not this great number of pledges. That's okay, right? As I said, it's hard to even get families to open up an email, let alone volunteer for anything. Or maybe it's just a community that, first graders have smartphones. It's going to take longer at those schools. This is why it takes 3 to 4 years to really make a lasting impact at your school. And I'll say too, you might not have parents that just want to sign anything, but they're fully on board with the mission. So I don't want you to be discouraged. And I've heard principals talk about this too. An issue will rise up at school that involves technology, and all of a sudden, they'll say they didn't really have good participation, but those parents are very quick to bring up that we're a Smart Family school. And so it's just a good point of that conversation that you can bring in. Sometimes it's just parent participation isn't there, right? We have schools that I think they have like 47 different zip codes of families that attend. They drive all over, and it's hard to get them back onto campus once they pick up or drop off their kid. So and we can work with different ways and different strategies to boost up that participation. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, right? But I will say sometimes the parents might just be completely checked out on this issue. Where I'll say where that strong point then turns to is those student presentations. If the parents don't want to admit there's a problem, the kids certainly know that there's a problem. They definitely want to change something about how they're growing up and how they're experiencing their life with technology, right? They want changes. They just need some help and guidance along there. And sometimes there's a lack of family leads. Sometimes it's hard to recruit them, or you find that you found someone you thought would be great, and all of a sudden, well, they're not responding to my emails, or maybe they transferred schools or whatever it may be. We can help with recruiting new family leads. We can work around these things as well. Sometimes there might be burnout, maybe with the family presentations as you move forward, year 2, year 3. We can switch up what we're doing. These, I mentioned those 5 components, but doesn't mean we can't do other things or shift things around. It's just a conversation and a simple ask, right? We can figure different things out. Sometimes it's just busyness that you'll find. Maybe there's just different seasons throughout the school year. I know as we get closer to Christmas and Thanksgiving, families just kind of check out, vacations start coming in, January happens, and families are readjusting to everything again. But we can make that work too. Despite the busyness and everything else, that's why we're here, to provide that little bit of relief for y'all as you're also dealing with, putting out fires all day as principals. And if you got a new family lead, we can train them up. We can help assist with that. And pushback, we've never really gotten pushback. And I know that might be a concern maybe with principals. Oh, what if my families don't like this? I'll say there will be families that don't agree with our mission, but we have not personally received that pushback. We might hear things with, families try to reroute it towards, well, what about the Chromebooks? Well, this is why we point back to our 4 norms. We are working on establishing these first. And you can take all these things and apply these at your home with the tablet, with the video games, but this is the line that we're going to draw right here, right? And so we haven't really received any pushback. They either engage with our parents, will either love us or we try to and bring them in. And a lot of the families, I will say, they really haven't made a decision because they're not well versed in this. They're busy themselves. And that's why the vision of the founders was too, is like, why we have the funding for you guys and the resources freely available. They really are very, very, very feel strongly about removing any obstacles that are in the way of this mission, whether that be resources or finances. They want to make sure that schools and families have access to these things so that actually transform their communities. And that's what we want to do. This is what we're trying to achieve. It's prioritizing the family values, delaying smartphones, all these things. These are the norms that we want to shift, and we're here to want to shift it. We'll work with you guys to do this. No matter any objections that come up with families, we know that's why we're a 3 to 4 year program. We're not expecting anyone to bat 100 out of the park. This is something that we know the tech industry has really put a lot of time and effort to make this a norm, and we're going to have to work diligently together. And as we said, no family can do it alone, no school can do it alone. We're here to support each other. We're here to work with one another to help actually make this a standard across the board. And this is, again, you might get questions from families and everything else, or you might be asked to share. I want you all to remember why you signed up for this program in the first place. Why is it important to you? Think about this when you're sharing, this with your families. They're like, oh, why are we doing this? And just feel free to share these things, their thoughts. You don't have to be a neuroscientist. That's why we're here. That's why we have all the resources. You don't need to come up with all the answers. You can just point them in our direction. We'll give you all the resources that you need. You don't need to be a neuroscientist. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to remember why this is important with you, and just don't be afraid to share it with others. What are you seeing in the classrooms? What are you experiencing in the hallways of your school? We want to make sure that parents understand the childhood that we had is gone for these kids. And it's going to take work to get them something that they can experience and share and love together, right? We know that children are missing out. We know they're not as happy as they once were, as we were, right? And I remember just most of us grew up in a time where we could just go outside and have fun and not think about too much, come out and be out till the streetlights came on. And most of us, that was actually during the time it was most dangerous to actually do that, right? And we've done a lot of work to help make the world outside a lot safer, right? With, cameras, policing, neighborhood watches. It's actually a lot safer now than it was, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But yet there's still this stigma about being outside and doing these things and doing things to make sure our kids are safe. But yet when it comes to actually with phones and smart devices, a lot of parents just let them have free access to this device very early on, not thinking about the dangers of what they're doing. This unrestricted access that these kids have. Well, now all these people have unrestricted access to these kids. It's just something that we need to be thinking about as well. It's just not only building up the memories, we want to keep our kids safe. We don't want them exposed to things that endanger them. We want to make sure that our community is, one, happy, but also protected as well. And I want to just kind of open up for any questions on your ends. I know I've heard a lot of information.
Thank you, Dean. You did a really good job of trying to put a lot of, like you said, information to one presentation. I think for the most part, as you walk through this school year, please keep in touch with us or whomever is really kind of the lead at your school. You each have this implementation coordinator to hold your hand through it. I know we're close to kickoff for the Super Bowl. And so I hope, you've got your events booked for the most part. And that family lead is going to start to present itself to you if she or he has not already. and then be on the lookout. We try to strategically organize the emails you receive once a week, so they're small bites. There's so much that we know we can ask you to do throughout the year, but you're always going to see at least one or two actionable items in these broader emails your implementation recruiters will share with you, so that you can either do just that social media post to promote something, or you have that flyer for your upcoming event, or you have a link to our new newsletter that we release once a month. So we're so excited for this school year. Feel free to keep in touch like we've expressed if you have any suggestions, questions, or specific help needed on particular topics within our domain. We will happily connect you with anybody who could be of support.